The sun was barely up on a crisp October morning in 2024 when I pulled my battered Ford pickup into the driveway of my cozy cabin at Willow Creek Estates, a gated community in the heart of Oregon's wine country. I'd been gone for 5 years, serving overseas in the military, and this little retreat modest compared to the sprawling $900,000 mansions around it was my dream retirement spot. The neighborhood gleamed with manicured lawns and pristine driveways, but my weathered cabin and rusty truck stuck out like a sore thumb. I was unloading cardboard boxes filled with old books and military gear, dressed in a faded plaid shirt and jeans, when she appeared, Margaret Hensley, the HOA president, striding across from her palatial home with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Welcome back," she said, her voice syrupy but sharp. "You must be the owner of this property?" Her gaze flicked over my truck, my clothes, and the boxes with thinly veiled disdain. I nodded, keeping it polite, but Margaret's smile faded fast. "This community has certain standards now," she said, her tone implying I was already failing them. "We attract a refined crowd. I hope you can keep up." The word refined hit like a jab, and when I asked what she meant, she didn't hesitate. "People of your means," she said, eyeing my work boots, "might find it hard to fit in." I kept unpacking, trying to shrug it off, but Margaret wasn't done. "Some folks just don't belong in a place like this," she muttered, loud enough for the neighbors to hear. Then, before I could respond, she pulled out her phone and called the police, claiming a suspicious individual was trespassing at 2147 Creekside Lane. Within minutes, Officer Daniels arrived, lights flashing. He was polite, but clearly swayed by Margaret's polished demeanor and her $900,000 address. She spun a tale about doubting my ownership, and I calmly handed over my deed and military ID. The moment Officer Daniels saw Colonel James Carter on my ID, his posture shifted. He read my documents carefully, then turned to Margaret. "Ma'am, his ownership is legitimate." Her face froze, a mix of shock and humiliation, as she stammered about a misunderstanding. I looked her dead in the eye and said, "This place means more to me than you'll ever know." She stormed back to her mansion, but I knew this was just the beginning. The next day, my mailbox was stuffed with HOA violation notices. My cabin's natural cedar siding was unsuitable for upscale aesthetics. My wildflower garden was unkempt. Using a drill at 10 a.m. was disruptive. Each letter dripped with condescension, as if I were too simple to understand proper community standards. I could have fought back with lawyers, but I'd learned in 35 years of military service that you don't fight bullies on their terms. So, I played their game better. I spent days studying the HOA bylaws, cross-referencing every rule. Then, I complied with every violation to the letter. I painted my cabin a sterile beige, ripped out my garden for sod, and soundproofed my workshop. Neighbors started whispering, wondering why Margaret was targeting the quiet veteran trying so hard to fit in. Then came the HOA meeting. Margaret called an emergency gathering to discuss problematic resident behavior. The community center was packed, and she took the stage with a slick PowerPoint, flashing photos of my cabin and truck, calling them eyesores that threatened property values. "Certain individuals," she said, staring at me, "lack the sophistication for our curated community." The room was tense. Some nodded, others squirmed. I stood, connected my laptop, and said, "Margaret, you keep saying people like me don't belong. Let's show everyone who I really am." I clicked, and a photo of me in full dress uniform, chest heavy with combat medals, filled the screen. Colonel James Carter, 35 years, U.S. Army, Purple Heart recipient. The room gasped. 3 veterans stood at attention. Margaret's face went white. I dismantled her accusations, citing bylaws she'd twisted and proving her harassment violated every community principle. "I've built stronger things than you can imagine," I told her, "and I protect what I build." But Margaret didn't back down. She doubled down. She targeted my supporters with petty violations: a retiree's rose bushes, a family's toys, an elderly woman's mailbox. I dug deeper, requesting HOA financial records. What I found was staggering. $60,000 in emergency funds was down to $9,000. Fake invoices for non-existent projects littered the books. Margaret had been skimming for years, driving out anyone who asked questions. With help from Henry, a retired librarian and my new ally, I uncovered old documents showing her theft began when her real estate business tanked. She turned our community into her personal piggy bank. Her final move was a desperate, illegal vote to expel me, held with barely 24 hours' notice. She ranted about my low-class mentality, ruining her sophisticated vision. I let it happen, recording every violation of procedure. The vote passed, 16-13, and she gloated, giving me 30 days to leave. I smiled and said, "I'll need to make some calls about the appeal." Her flinch told me she was scared of who I might know. Those 30 days, I didn't sulk, I'd build a case. On the final morning, Margaret arrived with Officer Daniels, expecting me to be gone. Instead, I handed him a folder, proof of her theft, illegal votes, and harassment. His face hardened as he read. Then I dropped the bomb. "I didn't just buy this cabin," I said, pulling out original development plans for Willow Creek Estates, stamped with Carter Construction. "I built this entire community 10 years ago, before my last deployment. This cabin was always my retirement home." Margaret's jaw dropped. She tried to bribe me with $60,000 cash in front of the officer, a panicked plea to save her crumbling empire. I refused. "I fought for things bigger than money," I told her. "You judged me by my truck and forgot to ask who I was." Officer Daniels promised a criminal investigation. Word spread, and neighbors rallied, furious at Margaret's betrayal. Her real estate business collapsed, her mansion went up for sale, and she became a pariah. Henry was elected HOA president, ushering in transparency and fairness. We threw a barbecue, welcoming back families Margaret had driven out. I spoke from my porch. This place was built for everyone: teachers, veterans, families. Let's make it that again. The district attorney charged Margaret with embezzlement. She took a plea deal for restitution and probation. We rebuilt Willow Creek into a true community, with open forums, fair rules, and a memorial garden honoring service and unity. Months later, I saw Margaret at a store, broken and alone. I could have twisted the knife, but chose silence. Some battles end when you walk away. Now, I fish by the creek as kids play nearby, and our sign reads, Willow Creek Estates, a home for all. I built this place to be a sanctuary, and it finally is. What do you think James should have done differently? Was he too kind to Margaret, or did she deserve worse? Could you have stayed calm in his shoes? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button, and subscribe for more stories of justice and redemption.